Hey everybody, this is herculespetix, founder, curator, docent, and gift shop employee of the herculespetix Academy of Comic Book Studies. Today we're going to look at Superman's Pal Jimmy Olsen, number 77. This was published in 1964 from DC Comics, of course, and this continues the reign of silliness that Jimmy Olsen perpetrated on America's youth. Once again, they have a cover designed to make gullible little children be like, oh, how could this happen? I have to read this story to find out how this ludicrous incident arose. We see, first of all, Jimmy's the Colossus of Metropolis. So that's going to keep you wondering. But then he's threatening the life of Lucy Lane, who he loves, kind of the love of his life, even though she treats him with nothing but contempt. They have a sick relationship. So it's kind of satisfying for me to see him giving Lucy what she deserves, because she's terrible. She's a horrible woman. And she says, Lucy, you've kept me dangling on a string for years. Now it's my turn. I could brush you off with a mere twitch of my finger. And Superman shows up saying, Jimmy's gone berserk. How could this be? And of course, a kid's going to pay 12 cents to find out. And of course, get a really crappy answer to it all. We do start off with one of these DC public service announcements. I kind of love these things. They're so minor. Like this one's "Are You a Good Neighbor?" And this is written by Jack Schiff and drawn by Sheldon Moldoff. And it's just these kids are dicking around. They knock over a garbage can. One of them says, "Hey guys, we should pick this up. Nah, we want to go on a picnic." When they get to the picnic grounds, there's a table where everyone left their garbage. So before they can have their lunch, they have to clean up the table. And the whole time they're thinking, wow, the nerve of these people. And then they realize, hey, wait a second. That's what we did with those garbage cans. And they go back and clean up the mess. That's the lesson for today. Don't be a litter bug, I guess. Or clean up after yourself. You know, guys, I forgot to mention, the cover was by pencils by Kurt Swan, inks by George Klein. And now we get into the first story, which tries to explain that ridiculous cover, The Colossus of Metropolis. This is written by written by Leo Dorfman, though there's a question mark at Grand Comic Database. Pencils by Kurt Swan and inks by George Klein, same as the cover art. And George Klein, man, he's kind of got like this Murphy Anderson ink line. He adds a nice slickness to Kurt Swan, like more detail than normal, like just in the hair there and on this gorilla. Yeah, so I'm amazed they didn't put the gorilla. This is Titano, by the way. He's a Superman villain. They should have put him on the cover. It would have sold like probably double. Because kids like gorillas who can beam X-ray beams. Can project X-ray beams. So this is just basically a retread, like another splash page cover. So Jimmy Olsen's hanging out with his pal Superman. He's looking at all of his souvenirs. And he's got all this crazy stuff like costumes from the Legion of Superheroes, elastic fluid that turns him into Elastic Lad, Colossal Boy from the Legion of Superheroes gave him an enlarging compound. And then he has all of his girlfriends, he calls them, even though he doesn't do anything with them. Allura, she's a beautiful giantess from a different planet. Ilana of the Sunni Galaxy. Rona, the luscious doll from another dimension. But then the one that his heart belongs to is Lucy Lane. She's the one girl he really goes for. And you can tell, just look at her face. She's a meanie. She's a mean lady. She treats Jimmy like dirt. So he says, oh shit, I just remembered. I gotta pick her up at the airport. She promised me a date. And we see the Metropolis airport, and this plane is landing. And all of a sudden, this giant gorilla is on the tarmac. It's Titano. And Lucy Lane happens to be the stewardess on this flight. And everyone's running, but she tells the other people there, she says, I know all about Titano. And there's a flashback to Lucy Lane's sister, Lois Lane. She said that Lois met Titano when he was a little baby. They sent him up in a rocket ship. There was some kind of incident, and he was bathed in radiation and kryptonite radiation. So when he came back down to Earth, he grew to Titanic size. And it turns out, though, he was just a sweet little, kid almost, He wasn't really mean. He was just, confused. And he also has this kryptonite vision. And so when Superman tried to fight him, of course, he had a very rough time of it. Lois tricked Titano into a cage and put lead, basically glasses on him, so he couldn't use his kryptonite energy. And then Superman brought him back to the primeval era. He figures, he'll get, he should hang out with creatures his own size. It doesn't seem like a good fate to be left in a world of dinosaurs, because dinosaurs are pretty fucking savage. So Titano reaches into the plane, grabs Lucy, because Titano kind of loves Lois Lane, so I guess Lucy reminds him of Lois. Jimmy Olsen calls Superman on his watch, and Superman shows up once again. He gets kryptonited. And Jimmy says, I guess I have to take care of it. And so he drinks some of Colossal Boy's enlarging compound, and he embiggens himself. And the whole, so much of this story is based on such a dumb concept. Supposedly monkey see, monkey do is a universal principle. And so, Jimmy has this marionette that he puts down on the ground, thinking that, Titano will now put Lucy on the ground because he's going to imitate me. And it's right on a barbershop. Titano peeks in the barbershop, sees a guy getting a shave. Then he puts Lucy down. He grabs a giant ice cream truck. I guess it's full of ice cream. And then kind of pins Jimmy against the wall and pours the ice cream on his face and grabs a rotor blade from the helicopter and starts shaving him. So then Jimmy runs into the ocean. He figures, if I start playing in the ocean, he will too. I'll get him away from Metropolis. Of course, that doesn't go well. They cause all these waves because Titano is playfully trying to, dunk him. And Jimmy throws these giant rings. There just happens to be a billboard for lifesavers, which have all these giant metal rings. God, as I'm reading this out loud, I just can't believe this is a real comic. Every panel, there's a new stupid development. That's just more ludicrous than the last. Okay, so this is when Jimmy reenacts what's on the cover. It's pretty much the same exact dialogue. Superman shows up, and then Jimmy instantly says, I was just kidding. So that's how they explain the cover. It was a joke. Usually they have a way more convoluted way to explain these bizarre covers. But that's all this one was. So it's kind of a cheat. It's not like very clever or anything. And then right then, Allura shows up, the giantess from another planet. And she's gaga over Jimmy. And she's like, I happen to be going by your planet and saw that you're big now. We can get married now that you're my size. But then the colossal serum wears off. And she's like, I guess I must return to my galaxy without you. We could never wed. Even though you think you could just take that compound all the time. Like I take my hypothyroid medicine every day. And she basically takes Titano with her. And they get in their spaceship. Even though Titano's already going in the spaceship, she makes herself look like Lois Lane. Just to, I guess, because Titano loves Lois Lane. And then Jimmy, as they fly off, Jimmy says, how about that date, Lucy? And she says, after the way you scared me, fuck you. Besides, I already have it set up a date with the pilot. So she wasn't even going to go on a date with him anyway. That's what a shitty, like, quote-unquote girlfriend she is. She's just the worst. And then Superman and Jimmy are looking at this interstellar television, and they see that Titano has already found a mate amongst the giant gorillas of Allure's home planet. Very happy ending, except Jimmy just thinks, well, even Titano could get a girlfriend. And Lucy Lane keeps making a monkey out of me. That's a good one. Good one, Jimmy. You guys, I gotta say, these letter pages, Jimmy Olsen's pen pals, they're more fun, or maybe more stupid than the comics themselves. The shtick of all these letter pages is that the kids try to write in, to catch the editor or the writers in mistakes. And these kids are just so annoyingly nitpickety. It's just like, oh, shut up, you kid. And it says, like, for example, this guy says, oh, in that story, Jimmy plays the part of a snake charmer. And he gets his foot bitten by a cobra. However, my encyclopedia says that snake charmers before they tame a reptile, they first remove their fangs. And they always usually give jokey answers. Oh, God, these are so dumb. I'm trying to find the best ones. Oh, God, this one. I recently read your story, Jimmy Olsen's Secret Love, and enjoyed it very much. But one point puzzles me. If Sandra was flying first class, and they had to, because only first-class planes show movies in flight, why did they have hamburgers for lunch? When I flew first class, they served steak, caviar, and champagne. And the editor says, that was the noon meal. They get steak for supper. Can you believe that? How stupid that is? Oh, God. Some kid giving them shit about Father's Day falling on the wrong day. These kids have nothing better to do. But then again, these comics are so dumb, there's plenty of ammunition for these kids. They're fucking up all the time with errors in logic. So, yeah, that's... Sorry to get all riled up. But these kids, some of them are annoying. I love these ads. These old DC ads. How could you not want to buy this comic? I wish I owned this. As soon as I find one, I'll share it with you on this channel. Next, we have Superman's pal, Jimmy Olsen, the kid who couldn't lose. And this one is... Let me see the writer and artist on this one. There's no credits on these, because back then they didn't do that. This is a... No, I can't seem to find it. Hold on. I think this is Leo Dorfman again. And Leo Dorfman writing, supposedly. And once again, Kurt Swan pencils, George Klein inks. I didn't mention this earlier. Grand Comics Database doesn't mention this. Usually they tell you if something's reprinted from something else. But when DC used to do this, have the thing up there, it usually meant because it was a Golden Age reprint, because they were trying to fill out the page. Golden Age comics were wider. And so part of me wonders if these are reprints. Because this is 1964, and it just seems like very like late 40s, 50s milieu. So I don't know. Just a little thought I had. So apparently Jimmy Olsen has his own fan club. And one day Jimmy's going to visit them. And Superman wows them by making instant hard-boiled eggs for them with his heat vision. I'm glad Superman's using his powers for a good effect. He could have been, I don't know, saving 100 people in the time it took to visit these doofuses. So, Jimmy brings some more souvenirs for him. And then this guy shows up. He says, I'm Skip Wallow. You heard of my dad, right? Bet on anything, Wallow? Famous gambler. And he basically bilks the kids out of all their souvenirs using various tricks. First, he does an easy one that they can do to let him win $100 to like lure him in. And then he starts saying, oh, okay, well, how about you give me a chance to, win the souvenir and my money back. And he has all these clever tricks like, oh, if I put this hat on the floor, I bet you can't jump over it. And of course, they're like, that sounds easy. Who couldn't do that? He puts it in the corner, so you can't jump over it. And just all these goofy little tricks like that. And so by one of them, it just sounds, I don't believe. Supposedly, if you have salt and pepper, you can build up static electricity on a comb by running it through your hair, and all the pepper will fly up into the comb. I gotta try that. I don't think it's true. So there's one thing they won't bet on is Jimmy Olsen's bow tie. Even though they've already bet like priceless stuff, and this guy's won it from them. So Jimmy shows up with a new souvenir. It's some kind of little robot Superman, a mini version, and they tell him what happened. Jimmy says, don't worry, guys. I'll show this guy. And he goes up to the ski lodge where he knows he's hanging out. And he basically does the same thing to Skip Wallow that he did to the kids. He says, hey, how would you like to gamble for this Superman robot replica? And he does all these little tricks. And Skip Wallow falls for all of them. So he wins back all of the souvenirs and brings them back to the clubhouse. And the kids are all happy. And then there's a kind of a cute but also very depressing ending, realizing what a sap Jimmy is. He says, hey, Lucy, I bet you a quarter I can kiss you without touching your lips. And, of course, he kisses her and says, oops, I lose. And then she says, oh, of all the sneaky tricks, you did that so you could deliberately kiss me. It's like, oh, heaven forbid you give Jimmy a kiss once in a while. You Harridan. She's so mean. Here we have one of those little Henry Bolton off gag strips. And look at this, guys. I just bought this. I'm so bummed. Even though it is just the ad was cut out. But, yeah, that's annoying. So I got to get another copy of this. So someday I'll trade up. I guess they wanted a subscription to Jimmy Olsen. So I guess it was for a good cause. So next we have another Leo Dorfman story, and this is pencils by John Forte, inks by John Klein. This one is so dumb, and it's Jimmy Olsen, Super Thief. And I guess our story begins light years from Earth. And so Jimmy Olsen's in a spacecraft. He's on a vital interstellar mission. And that mission is he's been tasked to distribute all of these Superman trophies to promote goodwill among all alien races. That's not a vital interstellar mission. That's stupid. So he lands on this one planet. He gives them a little crypto robot doll that can fly and bark. These guys look funny. And he goes to this other planet where it's a replica of Krypton exploding that then reassembles itself through magnetic power. This is weird. This planet's called Paratopia, where no crime exists and everyone is wealthy. I think if everyone is wealthy, it's not really wealthy, is it? Can wealth exist without poor people to support them? Who cleans the toilets in this world? I don't know. So then he lands on this one planet where everyone dresses the same and they wear these big helmets. There's all this wondrous things there, even though they're pretty dumb. Like, their cars don't have wheels. They have hundreds of little legs like a caterpillar. Yeah, that's so much better. They have trees of jewels. This guy's on a weird unicycle. He's so shocked to see Jimmy that his helmet falls off. And he drops all of his packages. And he runs off saying Help, that boy's strange attire reveals he's not one of us. I'm scared. What a bunch of wussies. They're terrified just because Jimmy's wearing a suit that's not like theirs. So he picks up one of the helmets. It's a translator helmet. I don't know why everyone on this planet would wear a translator helmet. They all know their own language. I could see if they were visiting another place, they would. But, of course, that's just a simple way to keep the plot moving. He also puts on one of their uniforms so he doesn't stand out, their costumes. And so he sees all these inventions that are pretty dumb. So supposedly he observes a ceremony where ashes fall from a sparkling prayer stick. I guess they're revering their dead, their elders. And as the ashes fall, there's this little kind of ashtray that on its own floats over and collects all the ashes. And Jimmy says, that's amazing. I gotta get one of those for Perry White. He's always smoking his cigars. So he just steals it. And he even says, he justifies it by saying, some of Earth's ancient explorers used to swipe valuable things from natives during their explorations. They got away with it. I will too. So these two guys in red helmets start chasing him. He assumes that's the police costume, the red helmets. And so Jimmy's on the run. This doesn't make any sense at all. He gets on a moving sidewalk and makes it go faster to escape the cops. But they could just jump on that sidewalk as well. It's a moving sidewalk. So it's very dumb. And so then he finds this prediction machine where it'll, tell you about the future. He steals that too. And then he keeps running away. The cops are on his tail at every move. There's this wishing pill that you take it, and for a limited time it grants any wish you want. Of course, Jimmy steals that too, the little bastard, and he swallows it in an empty alley. And he wishes, even though the cops are on his tail, he wishes that Lucy Lane would appear, fall madly in love with me, and give me a thrilling kiss. And that's exactly what happens. Lucy Lane fades away from this airplane cabin, and that exactly happens. Super duper. That wishing pill is the most. So she kisses him, and as soon as, pretty quickly, she fades back, transports back to the airplane, thinking she just had some crazy hallucination. She says to herself, me flip over Jimmy? Ridiculous. So she even knows in her brain she has no love for Jimmy, and yet she constantly hangs out with him, lets him buy her dinner, and keeps him hanging on. And, okay, now we see more crazy stuff. The joy sphere makes you relive mentally the happiest moment you ever knew. You need only to grip it tightly and concentrate. It's just like Gleamanex in brain candy. It makes you relive chemically the best moment in your life chemically. And so he holds the gem or whatever it is, the joy sphere. And his most happiest moment is when Superman first gave him his signal watch. And Jimmy feels this exultation, just like he did when it really happened. Then the cops show up, so he's like, once again, I gotta run. He says, okay, I've stolen enough. I gotta get back to my little spaceship. And then a bunch of those red helmeted guys show up. And Jimmy surrenders. And it looks like they're going to take a picture of him, like a camera. Of course, Jimmy's mortified. He's like, oh my God, if my fan club on Earth learns about this, they'll disband in disgrace and despise me. But what it does, it makes not a life-size, a giant statue of Jimmy instantly. An instant statue. And these red helmeted guys say, angry? We're not angry with you. You're the most magnificent crook ever. We admire thieves like you. Years ago, outlaws from various worlds settled here. Our laws will make stealing legal. The radiation from the belt buckle of this costume, which we and our descendants will all use, will nullify the conscience of whoever wears it. It'll guarantee that all inhabitants here approve of crime. That's such a dumb idea. That's like the worst science fiction concept ever. So Jimmy realizes that he hasn't been acting himself. Because the whole comic, you're like, wow, Jimmy's really stretching his moral boundaries, you know, his ethics. And it's because he's wearing this belt, which makes stealing seem okay. And when they saw the trophies in Jimmy's ship, they assumed he stole them. So they were impressed that he stole from Superman. So they're actually not police officers. They're the red helmet greeters. So we're supposed to believe that this culture has a whole like working class strata of people who just greet people visiting the planet, and they wear red helmets. They're the greeters. And I guess they'll congratulate you if you're a great thief. God, that's so dumb. These really seem like they were written by 8-year-olds. Maybe Leo Dorfman was an 8-year-old. I don't know. And so Jimmy leaves. And he even leaves the objects he stole. And back on Earth, Superman and him are looking at this interstellar telescreen. And Superman thinks it's very funny that you're the greatest hero of a planet of thieves. Here's some more well-designed ads. I never saw this one. You know, like, this is almost like this one. You know, all these ads you used to see in the 70s of, like, 100 toy soldiers. But this one looks cooler, even though I'm sure they're the same soldiers with a little jetpack glued on them. You know what I mean? They're probably not that impressive. But the Astro Force. And it just seems a little more exciting than those green plastic soldiers we used to play with. It comes with 16 activator guns, 16 disintegrator ray pistols, and 16 oxy radar flight packs with cosmic propulsion belts. I don't think they even knew what those were. That's just made up gobbledygook. And I guess that's it for this issue, guys. Thanks for bearing with me. These are so dumb, but I love them. And they just keep getting dumber and dumber. And but the imagination involved is so fun. It is like hearing a little kid tell you a story where they don't know the mechanics of proper storytelling or even the mechanics of telling the truth. So their stories will be crazy. No adult could think of that story. Somehow they have captured that with their dopiness. And that's what I love about these comics, where every panel is a new twist where you're like, oh shit, what the hell's going on now? That's nuts. So once again, I do this every couple months. I've been reviewing some of these Mort Weisinger edited titles. Hope you guys aren't sick of them, but I got a big stack to go through. And hopefully I'll live long enough to show you all of them. And this is a perfect example of Jimmy Olsen. Okay, guys, I hope you enjoyed today's video, and I hope to see you next time here at the Herculespetix Academy of Comic Book Studies.